Hey everyone, Luke here. Now before I get into the actual video on what's the difference between Promised Neverland anime and manga, and this will be episode 6, so we're halfway through the series. But before I get into that, I want to make a quick announcement, is that I am in the show. I am acting in the show. I'm doing four sketches, so like 4 little bits, and I'm also directing my bits, so I'm very happy about that, and I'm sure it's going to be an absolutely fantastic show. But that does mean that I might not be able to get the videos out as frequently as I want. I mean, I'm still going to do the videos, I just might not be able to get them out as frequently as I have been for the past few weeks, because I want to focus on that, focus on line learning, and also coming up with ideas for my sketch as well in terms of directing. So that's what I wanted to say. And this episode, while not as frustrating as the last episode, I still have a lot to say about it. Now with this episode, with doing what's differences, I'm going to be doing it a little bit differently, because in the episode when I was writing down stuff, I was kind of doing it at different points in the episode, and I figured, well, if the anime is going to do different things at different points, why can't I? So that's what we're going to do. So the bits in the episode, the bits that are actually mentioned in the episode, they may come out of order from when they actually happened in the episode, but I'm doing that because if they're going to be lazy in terms of changing things around, why can't I? But anyway, getting on to it, the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the ending of the last episode. If you don't remember, it ended on an anime-only cliffhanger where Don and Gilda were like seeing somebody come into the room, and they're thinking like, oh, is it going to be Mama? Is Mama going to find out? But no, it turns out that it was actually Phil, and like he was playing hide and seek with a couple of other kids. Now, adding Phil in, but without any real focus on him, like that's been like a main issue of the anime. It's like they haven't really been focusing on Phil as much as they should be. I mean, in the actual arc itself in the manga, he's not really focused on that much, but the idea that he's suddenly being dropped every now and again, where add to the point like, oh, maybe he's going to turn out to be something at some point. And a lot of people in the comments on the episode were actually they were getting the idea, and I'm glad that they're actually like picking up on the idea just from the fact that Phil was in this episode. But again, I feel like it would have had much more of an impact if they had much more subtle moments in the actual episode. In the actual episodes preceding this as well. Now, one thing I will praise the anime on is that the moment when Don and Gilda were ascending the stairs to actually go into Mama's basement, Mama's secret room, the fact that they didn't add any music in that moment, and it was just led to play for the atmosphere, I felt that really added to the tension. And you see, that's one of the things that I don't actually mind about the anime changing things around, and the fact that they didn't have any music in that moment when they ascended the stairs. I thought that was really effective. It just allowed the atmosphere to play and just get the focus on the characters themselves and their actual expressions of what is actually going on. What is this here? Why is Little Bunny here? And even though music started to come in, it was not actually as distracting as it could have been, like in previous episodes have been. And the fact that no music during that moment, it just added to the creepiness of the situation, the horrific on the horror aspects of the series. And I really like that about it. And again, there's points like that I don't actually mind them actually changing things around, but again, it's little points like this that I feel like if they did more things like this, I feel like it could have been a really effective adaptation instead of just like a mediocre one. That's what I'm seeing as well. It's like a mediocre adaptation. It's not brilliant, but at the same time, it's not the most annoying or most frustrating adaptation that I've ever seen of anything. But because it's the adaptation of my favourite manga, it's just these little moments that they just change around that just makes it so frustrating. But again, doing little bits like this to add to the tension, I feel like it's really effective, and I'll praise it on that regard. Now, one thing that I wasn't expected to happen in the actual episode as well is this bit right here, which should have been right at the end of the last episode where Don goes to get the key from Mama. And the reason why I feel like it should have been added in at the end of the last episode is because that would have made an absolutely fantastic cliffhanger, and they could have easily just done that. They and just had the bit where Don and Gilda are actually at the room, the opening to this episode, and I would have been absolutely fine with that. But again, I think that bit that should have been in the last episode just made it feel disjointed. It's like, we can't get, the door's not opened. Oh, maybe Mama has a key. It's like they're supposed to be they're supposed to be not as smart as Emma, Ray and Norman, but they're at least supposed to be intelligent enough to think like maybe Mama has a key for it, and instead of going for the room itself where Mama could easily just come and catch her in the act, they said they could have just gone and grabbed the key from Mama itself in the last episode. And that, again, that's one bit that they're just changing things around that just makes it so frustrating for me. It's like, why couldn't they have that be the cliffhanger for the end of episode 5? And again, another thing that the anime does really well in this episode is the transitions from Dawn and Gilda in the basement to Emma, Ray and Norman when they're talking about the William Minerva stuff. Now, the William Minerva stuff was okay. I mean, they got the basic ideas down and they got pretty much everything that was in the last chapter and in the last few chapters, and these chapters that this episode was adapting. They got pretty much all of that in, and they did it in a really effective way. How they were able to just transition from Dawn and Gilda's bit to Emma and Norman's bit, and they were able to do it very effectively. Like there was a bit where Gilda used the match to light the torch that Dawn and Gilda used to go down into the basement, and as soon as the match strikes, we cut immediately back to Emma, Ray and Norman's bits. Now, again, bits like that I'm actually fine with, and I think it works really well, and it was amazing to see all those different transitions that were happening. If you've seen the episode, you know what I'm talking about, particularly in a moment where it's like Dawn and Gilda are talking about Emma, Ray and Norman and how they're not really being trusted, and then immediately pans up to an image of them, and the scene plays out again like it did in the manga. And see, again, like I said, moments like that I really appreciate. I'm really glad that they actually include those bits. It's just other little bits in the episodes that just make it really much more frustrating. And again, if they had moments like that and they used different camera techniques to like get from scene to scene without it feeling disjointed, like it has been in previous episodes, I would have been fine with it. But again, this is kind of like the card we have to deal with. But like I said, transition in this episode, particularly from the moments Dawn and Gilda in the basement when Emma, Ray and Norman are talking about William Minerva, I think that worked really effectively. But of course, for every good thing that the anime does, it does another thing that just makes it that much more frustrating. And again, like I said, there wasn't really anything in this episode that made me feel like that just made me want to rip my hair out, or just gnaw through my screen and just be like, how dare you do this? But no, one thing that, again, it cuts out is the inner thoughts of the characters. And I know I keep bragging on this, but those inner thoughts really add to the characters, and they really say a lot about them without actually having needed to say it out loud. And it keeps the intimacy of the characters, and it again builds tension because you don't know what the characters are really thinking. And when we actually get their thoughts, it's really engaging for us as an audience to think like, okay, so we get another side to their character, and we get to see how they're truly feeling, and how things are really feeling for them, and what the situation is actually causing them to feel. And again, it makes them much more complex because we don't know what they're actually going to think, whether they're going to be happy, sad, angry, frustrated, or enraged at the whole situation. And one example of this is when Dawn and Gilda, in the manga right here, after they discover the whole truth about what's happening, like the siblings are really being taken away or being orphaned or whatever, Dawn goes to say, do you think what they told us is the truth? And Gilda flashes back to, if you think Emma is lying to you, come back to me. And side note, Gilda's voice actor, her name's Lynn. She's my favourite Japanese female voice actor. I think she is going to be playing the sensei Kiryu sensei in We Neverland, the adaptation that's coming up after Promised Neverland. So again, to see her in another anime adaptation, that's really great, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how she portrays Kiryu Sensei. But again, going back to Promised Neverland, that was just a side note that I wanted to make. Now, she is my favourite Japanese female voice actor. My favourite male voice actor is Hinio Suzumiya. I forget, I can't even pronounce his name, but basically he's the guy that plays Akio in Bakuman, the manga one. He plays the guy who makes the stories, and he also does the voice of Vector in Yu-Gi-Oh! Seal, which I feel is one of the best villains of the whole of Yu-Gi-Oh! Despite what people think about Seal. But anyway, that's besides the point. I'm getting off on a tangent there, but I just wanted to mention who my favourite female Japanese voice actor were, because I feel like they're doing such an amazing job in the roles that they're given, especially Lynn here with Gilda. But one thing that could have really benefited is if they had this line right here, is the thoughts here of Gilda, and how is that a lie? They're alive. Are they really? No, Emma wouldn't tell such a cruel lie. And you see this little bit right here where it says sting, and that just shows like just Gilda's heart is actually breaking, because she feels that she's actually being lied to by Emma, Ray, and Norma, and people that she actually trusts. And the fact that they cut that out, it just really took away a little bit from what Gilda's character actually is that she in a sense could be very much like Emma and be like this kind-hearted individual that really wants to prove herself to the others, but she's being held back a lot, and feeling like is she really worthy? I'm just as involved in this as you. It's going to affect me as much as you, and I'm going to get into talks about each individual character once the series is concluded. I'm going to be making videos on their characters and telling what they contribute, what their personalities are, and how they evolve throughout the series. But again, cutting out that little bit, it just cuts out a lot of insight into Gilda's insecurities, pretty much, about is she actually worthy? Are we being lied to? And why are we being lied to? Are we not just as involved as you guys? Now again, what the anime does as well, really, really well, in certain aspects, when they actually settle down and they actually concentrate on actual things, is the lighting. And perfect example here is this part right here where Emma goes, "My hunch," and Ray gives that really like your serious look, and she's like, "What's that look for?" In the anime, they added a lot more dark shadings to Ray's eye, to give off the impression it's like, you cannot be serious. And again, that was fantastic, and I loved that what they did there with the lighting, and it shows that when they can do it really, really well. It's just, again, little things that they do just really piss me off, but that's one thing that I want to say as a standout in terms of the lighting of the episode, to show that the anime can improve on things without actually taking away the actual intention of the scene. But of course, once again, they have to take out things, and one thing that they take out is when Ray goes, it all makes sense. It all makes sense now. And Emma responds with, "What's that supposed to mean?" And that's in reference to how Phil was the one that actually showed Emma the Morse code, and she was able to deduce what was actually going on. Now, the reason why I feel like this is this should be like brought to is, again, it's just taken away from just the interactions from Emma and Ray in particular, showing that yes, even though they are siblings, they act like actual siblings. Like, they will argue, they will bicker, and they will make fun of each other, and it's just that one little bit that just adds so much and gives so much level of depth to their characters, and shows like, no, they're not just like these stereotypical, like they have to fill a certain trope. They can joke, they can tease each other without actually taking away from what their actual core character actually is. So I feel like that was just worth bringing up, that one little moment that was just like, really? They couldn't even include that bit. And again, adding and improving to the anime is done as well, again, right here, when Emma and Ray and Norman find out that Don and Gilda have returned, that panel there. And it showed in the anime that Don was more pissed off and Gilda was like more upset. Again, showing that they can improve on things and give like the impression of like, whoa, this is actually getting serious and we're actually going to find out some serious shit here. But again, like saying, little things being cut out just really irritating, but adding little things and but that actually improve on things, I'm all for. And that little bit there with Dawn and Gilda being pissed off more in the anime than in the manga, I've got to give them credit for that. Credit where credit is due. And again, a lot of the conversation between Dawn and Gilda is actually done better in the anime. Like I say, credit where credit is due. This moment right here, where Dawn and Gilda actually find out the truth of what is actually ultimately going on with the farm and everything, that's really well done. And I really thought that they were actually gonna like just be like, oh my god, don't do this, don't do this. Perfect example is when Norman is like just building up to that he's actually just going to split it out without actually us just getting Dawn and Gilda's after reaction like we did in the manga. But no, they actually do that. Norman in the anime is like, and then it just immediately cuts to the major shocked expression from Dawn and Gilda, and it's like, farm, demons, and again, their faces are much more elaborated on and expanded upon of just how shocked and how much conflicting emotions they're displaying on their faces. It's done much better in the anime than in the manga, and I've really got to give them credit where credit is due for that. And another thing that I'll give them credit for is how Dawn's punch is way more unexpected than in the manga, because it just like comes right out of nowhere. I mean, in the manga it kind of does come out of nowhere, but it's not as but in the anime it's not as built up as much as it is in the manga. Well, it might be. I'm kind of like in two defenses about it. But anyway, in the anime, it just cuts to Norman. No, actually, it's actually done better in the anime than in the manga, because it cuts to Norman and we just like focusing on his inspection and how much guilt it is, and then it immediately goes to the punch. Whereas in the manga, it's just focusing on Dawn's laughter, and then it goes to the punch. And the fact that it cut away to show Norman's expression and words and how he feels the guilt, it just made that surprise of Dawn actually punching Ray and going to punch Emma just that much more offensive. And again, it's like a really quick thing. It's just like punch. Ray's like, wait, Dawn, punch, and then just grabs Emma, and it's just like that. And again, that moment done exceedingly well in the anime. Again, it was so unexpected, and I really loved that. And again, like I said, I wish more moments like this were expanded upon from the manga and helped to improve on to make it that much more better. Now, one thing I'm on the defense about, which I don't feel actually worked as well in the anime, is the line where Dawn is giving the declaration of, are we really a burden to you guys? Are we really that weak? Aren't we supposed to be family? Aren't we supposed to be siblings? In the anime, I'm pretty sure this is from the anime. He says, that time when you asked us to help you, I thought you were relying on us. Was that a lie? But in the manga, it's like, are we that weak and useless to you that you feel the need to protect us? I know why you would lie. It was to protect us, right? But I thought you were relying on us. I feel frustrated and pathetic. Sure, we're not as smart as you guys. We're not, but aren't we family? Aren't we siblings? Again, I feel like it works more in the manga because it just hammers in more of the guilt that that Emma, Ray, and Norman have at this point. Like, they know that they've been lying to Dawn and Gilda, and to actually have Dawn say that, I know why you would lie. It was to protect us. I feel like it works much more better than just having that moment just actually be a realization for Emma, Ray, and Norman that no, they are just as involved in this moment. Again, the line in the anime of was that a lie to us? It does work. It does work for the episode, but in terms of like the overall story, I don't feel like it works as effective as it did in the manga. But again, it does get the same point. It does get the same point across. So maybe I'm just being nitpicky here. But one thing I'm not being nitpicky on is the changing of Emma's dialogue. In the manga, in the anime, she just says, I was wrong, before we actually cut to Dawn and Gilda's conversation. And again, the conversation is taken outside, which I feel like just adds to the atmosphere a bit more, rather than just being in secluded corridor where pretty much Mama could actually hear them at that point. But if they're outside, then it's like, okay, at least they're a little bit more safer at this point. But again, going back to Emma's line, in the manga, it's like, I didn't mean to, but do I really not have faith in them? Again, that just like adds so much to Emma's character of the feeling like, even though she wants to protect everyone and wants to get them out safely, she feels like she has to be the one to do this on her own without actually having faith in them. And the fact that somebody is actually coming forward and questioning them, it actually questions her resolve as well. And again, it makes Emma a much more complex character than what is actually being portrayed in the anime. And like I said, I don't feel like the line actually works as well. Maybe that's why they just changed it to I was wrong, because if they changed it to if they didn't change the line, if they changed the line, if they still had this line in the anime and then they had this line from the manga, I feel like it just wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked as well. But the fact that they just changed it to I was wrong, maybe that was just like to just compensate for the fact that they changed that line. But again, they didn't really have to change it, and they could have had the same emotional aspects of like, did I really not have faith in them, and just Emma questioning her resolve and questioning like what her character is and whether or not she should actually truly trust them or not. And again, the moment outside with Don and Gilda, even though it cuts out one of Emma's lines, which is, if I can actually find it, yeah, here it is. I'm going to apologise to Don and Gilda. I was wrong. I was prepared for them to be mad, but I wasn't prepared to believe in them. I was naive. I'm sorry. I need to go and tell that. Like, even though she says that to their faces later on, the fact that they cut out the moment when she's like, I need to go to apologise to Don and Gilda, shows that no, she admits that she was wrong right there and then, before actually going and confronting them, and again shows complete complexity to her character. But going back to the moment that I was just saying, the music at that moment is good. It's sad, but it's determined. It's the music that was played in the trailer for the actual anime. After the moment after we get Emma's actual cry in the trailer, we have that music track that plays, and it's the same track that's played here when she's actually apologising to Dawn and Gilda, and they're actually getting the determined look of, no, we can do this, and we're by your side. And again, I love that. It just adds so much to the scene, and just like it's a perfect track for that actual scene, because it shows the sadness, but it also shows the determination of the characters as well. And again, another bit they cut out is this bit right here with Sister Crow actually spying on them and saying, I see you. Now, I don't know whether they actually changed that to actually make it a bit more of a shocking reveal at the end of the episode. But again, that could have just added so much and just been like another really creepy moment for Sister Crow. But again, it might have just been they decided to cut that to actually make it a more shocking reveal later on. Now, this moment, I feel like, is going to actually ruin another moment that I'll get back into at the end of the video. Now, another thing that's actually changed in the episode as well is when they're actually talking about what's on the outside world. In the anime, it says the world is full of demons instead of full of enemies, like it does in the manga. And the reason why this is important is that I don't think the kids have actually fully grasped the situation of the fact that there could be other humans out there that are in cahoots with the demons. Now, they don't necessarily know that all the way at this moment in time, but again, the fact that they say in the manga that it's just full of enemies, again, just adds more to the tension. Like, they don't actually know if an enemy is going to be human or demon at the like, but the fact that they're just specifically saying in the anime that it's full of demons, it pretty much just makes them like think like, okay, humans good guys, demons bad guys, man. There's no like moralist shade of grey that we actually get in the manga. And of course, another big thing that they actually cut out in the episode is Norman's thoughts on how to deal with Ray, because again, in the manga, he doesn't know at this point exactly how to deceive Ray, and the fact that they're just cutting that out just makes it seem like he's not being as shady as he could be, like he's portrayed in the manga. I don't know whether that's again to make Norman seem like he's just a Mary Sue rather than being like this complex individual that can make mistakes and can be slimy and sneaky when he wants to be. But again, again, they also cut out Norman's thoughts about about being bothered by something to do with Ray, and it also cuts out taking everyone without having Ray notice. That's the only thing I'm lost at to figure out. With things as they are now, it's impossible. How should I go about it? Again, showing that he doesn't have all the answers, like how it's particularly being portrayed in the manga. In the anime, it's like saying like Norman has all the answers, no need to worry, we are going to get out of here. Whereas in the manga, he can make assumptions and he can be wrong in certain aspects. Even though he's the smartest kid in the orphanage, it's pretty much established that Norman is smarter than Ray and Emma, and the fact that even he finds something impossible just again adds to the complexity of the character, like showing like no, he's not this Mary Sue perfect individual. He can make mistakes and he can make assumptions and he can actually fail, as demonstrated before when he found not to let anything like this happen again and actually fail again. And cutting that out, like I said before, cutting out the inner thoughts just takes away from the mind games that the series was built up so well. It's kind of like how can I describe it? It's kind of like taking out the attack names from Bleach and just letting us assume like, oh, that's an attack without actually getting insight into what it actually does or something like that. I was just using that as an example. But again, taking out the inner thoughts of the characters takes away from the mind games that everybody was building this anime up to be about. And again, it's more like a cat and mouse game. Now, the manga is a cat and mouse game, but it's a cat and mouse game that has a battle of the minds, like in the same vein as Death Note. That's another thing. Like, they compare it to Death Note, but again, Death Note had a lot of internal dialogue, and they actually stuck to that internal dialogue and made it work effectively, so that we actually got insight into the characters' minds, and we actually thought that we could actually be like the characters, and whilst also having their own characteristics themselves. And taking that away from the Promised Neverland takes away a big chunk of why it makes it so fascinating to begin with. And another thing that the anime takes away is just the importance of the other characters, because in the anime, Norman says I instead of will have Ray stole Mama, and I don't know whether this is actually to imply that Norman thinks that he can do all of this by himself, which he really could do all of this by himself if he actually really wanted to. But the fact that he's actually saying will do it shows that he has a lot more faith in the others in the manga than he actually does in the anime. And again, I feel like that just takes away a little bit from what the other characters can actually contribute and actually bring to the table in this situation. Now, from this point, the rest of the episode pretty much plays verbatim for how it is in the manga, down to Ray's interaction with Mama and Crone actually finding him and actually saying, "Would you like to become allies?" Again, and that's where the episode ends with Crone giving out the moment of like, "Oh, would you like to become allies with me?" And Emma going, "What?" But one thing that I didn't actually like in this situation is just it's just like the drawn out reveal of Crone. I felt like the music just was like. Was just like too drawn out, rather than it just being like what, and then Crone appears. Now it did do that, but it just like dragged it out. For me personally, I felt like it was really dragged out. But and also as well, again, the fact that they didn't include this, again, takes away a little bit from Norman's character, to show like he's determined to not let that moment happen, even if he has to go to various degrees of sneakiness and slyness to actually do it. Oh, and one more thing that I actually forgotten to talk about was the moment where Norman actually finds, I think it's the petrol that Ray's going to use at the end of the arc to actually try to blow himself up, and Norman's saying he is amazing instead of worrying about him, because if Norman actually found that petrol in the manga, he would have immediately told Emma and be like, "Emma, Ray's got petrol down in a creek in the bottom of his bed." Now, I'm not saying it's the actual petrol, that's why I put a question mark in my note here where it says Norman finds the petrol, but I think it's pretty much safe to say that yes, Norman did find the petrol that Ray was planning to use later on to actually blow himself up. But again, the fact that Norman found that just takes away from the shocking reveal of it later on, that when Ray particularly just douses himself in it. The fact that we did not expect Ray to actually have petrol, to actually have this suicidal backup plan, and the fact that Norman has found it, says like, oh, you're amazing, without actually worrying about it. That just again takes away a little bit from Norman's character, because Norman's not the kind of guy that will actually let that slide, and the fact that he's letting it slide again, it again just makes him feel like, I'm a Mary Sue character, so I can't do anything wrong, and actually not telling Emma, that kind of like takes away a little bit from her contribution as well, because if Emma found out about this, she particularly at this moment, she would not have agreed to it one bit. Maybe that's why Norman kept it to himself, because he knew that Emma wouldn't agree to this, and she wants Ray to actually bring it with her. But the fact that they included that when they didn't have to, it's just like, really? Why include it then? But anyway, going back to the ending of the episode, one thing that actually cuts out as well is Sister Crone actually wait, does it? Yeah, I finally caught them, the five of them, and her smirk of like, oh, I see what's going on here. Now again, cutting that bit out, I don't know whether they're actually going to include it in the next episode with just like a smirk or anything, but that's just one thing that bothered me. The fact that they didn't include that again, not including little bits from Crone just takes away from her character rather than just adding it in and being like, oh, I see, I found you, I know what's going on, I've got the evidence right now to support it, and I can use this to my advantage. But one thing that I'm actually really worried about is this moment right here. I'm worried that will actually be just thrown away, like, oh, here's my current situation, I've got a number, and Isabella has, and your mama has as well, and just by throwing that away, again, throws away one of the biggest surprises of the series. But we'll just have to wait and see. But if that happens, we are going to have a talk about that and why that was such a crucial moment to include when they could have had. But anyway, that was the episode. Again, like I said, it wasn't actually an episode that I was like really mad at, but at the same time, it wasn't an episode that I was actually into, and just those little bits, again, adding anime filler bits, but taking away moments that could actually improve and be expanded on and actually get more of an insight into the characters. That just really pisses me off. But again, guys, that's just my opinion. You're free to agree or disagree with me and feel like I'm free to say I'm nitpicking too much or that I'm not nitpicking enough. But it's just an opinion, and I'm all open to different opinions on this. That's what I love about the series, and what discussing about people, like what they like and what they don't like. There's a lot of things to like about this series, and a lot of people have things that they dislike about it. And I like to talk to people about that, and what things are actually going to go down, and what things are actually not going to go down. And again, that's what I love most about this series, and it's one of those series like this. Act Age, We Neverland, Dr. Stone, and Kimetsu no Yaiba, but I feel like those five are being like showcasing what shonen can actually do and that can actually evolve from by giving us much more well-detailed stories, but also expanding on things that have come before. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this episode? Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. Feel free to agree or disagree, and this will be Lasher Luke signing off. Later, guys. Review of chapter 1 to 123 will be coming during the week.